Hey everyone, Bruce Starr here, and we're going to have an incredible presentation for you today. I'm actually honored to have someone, gosh, Bob, you and I have known each other a pretty long time. I mean, we weren't best friends, but we've really known each other a really long time, and I'd like you all to meet Bob Perlow. Bob is a very, very funny guy, but he had one of the most interesting jobs that there is, where you can be out in Hollywood and still keep your sanity. So I want to welcome you, Bob. So thanks for being on with us, and I look forward to having some fun with you here today.
Oh, good to see you, Bruce. Yeah, I figured it out when you were just talking about that, how long it's been. We met over 62 years ago. We were kids, I guess. We were what, 20?
It's amazing. I've had on Murray Langston and people like that when I was an agent out there, and let's say I was 28, 29, well, by then Murray might have been 38 or 39, and guess how old he is now?
It's got to be over 100. Did he have the bag on during the interview?
He said he took it off, but I don't believe him. But it was radio, though. It was radio.
Oh, okay. Did it sound like this?
But I got to tell you, I mean, did you know Murray at all?
Yeah.
Oh, very, very funny guy. I mean, one time he took my roomie Barry Martyr and I out with him to Texas, and we went and did a bunch of comedy stores in 3 or 4 days' time. And I got to tell you, he was so funny and he was so interesting. He had everybody cracking up, from the waitresses, and even when he was off, he was really on and having a lot of fun. And that's what I really love about comedians. The real true comedians are guys that are just funny, like you and other good friends of mine. And so tell me a little bit about you, Bob. Tell me about where you grew up. I have a feeling that you're in the same place right now that you were when you were brought up.
Boy, what a mistake. Yeah, I came back. I'm in a place called Narragansett, Rhode Island. Narragansett, it's an Indian word meaning there are no women. It didn't mean that much to me when I was 11. Now that I know the meaning of the word, it's a terrible place. World without women is the literal translation. It's a casino that they don't allow women in. It's an Indian casino. No, it's a beach community in Rhode Island, and I came back here after my career was kind of done in L.A., and it's home. I still have family here, and I spent a winter or two since the Tonight Show was over, and it was dreadful. So I spent the last 2 winters in Key West, Florida.
I'll have to catch up to you there next winter, because it is beautiful there, and it's it's a great place to live. Especially you've had some really rough winters up there the last couple. You picked the bad years to come back, Bob, because roughest winters up there.
Yeah, here's my take on that. When people go, "Where do you live?" I go, "Close your eyes, and this is what you hear a half hour after Labor Day." Go. And then, that's after Labor Day. Then around January, here's what you hear. It just gets louder. I don't know where it comes from. Tumbleweed, which is only found in Texas. You can see outside your window. Go, where the hell's it coming from? It's tumbleweed. But it's a little desolate.
And that's why we lived out in L.A., a lot of us, because I think the worst weather we had out there, maybe it was 45 at night, and it was always kind of nice during the day, except for, of course they had the earthquakes and everything else that you could imagine. But how did somebody from Rhode Island, how did you manage to get out to L.A. and want a career, and how did you get started?
It was a pure fluke. I was a college professor for a while. I got my master's and started teaching in Boston. And one day, a friend of mine, a good friend who was working on the SS France, said, "Hey, I got fired, and they're looking for somebody to be a cruise director." I go, "I'll do it." It's very cold in Boston. So that was on a Wednesday. in Boston, shivering. By Friday, I was in St. Lucia saying hello to all these women that won free trips because they were hairdressers in the Caribbean. So I spent the next 2 years on ships, just all in the Caribbean, St. Martin, St. Lucia, Barbados, Martinique. It was great. Then when that ended, the owner of the company that had this promotion said, we have a company that we're starting in Los Angeles. It's a bus trip, and we're going to fly people out from New York. This is not promotional. This is a real company, and they'll spend 2 weeks in the West Coast, not California, but they would fly out from New York, 90 people, and fly over Las Vegas, land in L.A. Remember, they were probably waiting in New York for 2 to 3 hours for the plane because they had to leave early, spend 5 hours on the plane, get off the plane, dog tired, and I greet them. And I said, welcome to L.A. Let's go to Las Vegas. Now, a lot of them were tired and drunk. They go, okay, not realizing, wait, didn't we fly over Las Vegas? Why didn't we land if that's what? No. I had to think of a reason. The real reason was because it was cheaper for the owner of the company to fly into L.A., get them on a bus, and then go to Vegas. So I had to think of a reason. I go, you want to miss the beauty of Las Vegas at 5 in the afternoon? That's when the purples and okay, that sounds good. So we get on the bus, 90 people, 2 buses, 45 and 45. I was the tour guide. And we go to Vegas. Look at this, how beautiful. The buses were like school buses because the entire trip, it's a 2-week trip, was $225. Airfare, buses, hotels, Hearst Castle, everything. So to cut corners, fly into L.A., get on a bus, go to Vegas. And a few of them now are going, oh, it sounds a little fishy, but yeah, it's pretty. 3 days in Vegas. All right, we're ready. Let's go. Where's the next stop? Los Angeles. And now a few of them go, well, wait a minute. Didn't we came on the bus? I go, yes, but you never saw that trip in the morning. It's a whole different desert. The shadows and it's beautiful. Oh, and they're getting wise, but they only paid $225. So we took another bus trip, 5 hours, back to L.A., 3 days in L.A., get back on the bus, go to Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Hearst Castle, Yosemite, San Francisco. Then they would leave 2 weeks later. Another group would come in, and we would do the same trip in reverse. So that's how I got to, long story short, got to L.A. And during this whole time in L.A., I just, on my downtime in L.A., I joined this improv comedy group. And Robin Williams was in it, and a lot of people that became producers. And I liked it. I had fun. It was only 3 days every 2 weeks, but it was fun. And I was ready to go. It's time. Nothing's happening here. And a friend offered me a part of a bar in St. Martin. I was ready to leave. And one of the guys in this comedy group said, don't leave just yet. Something may happen. Not telling me what. 3 days later, he goes, okay, I was just promoted to producer of Laverne and Shirley. Do you want to be a writer? I go, okay. I had never written it. It's not like, oh, I wrote and wrote. I can't wait. This is going to be my big break. I'll go, yeah, I'll be. That was my entree into the world of show business. That was 1978, and I never stopped working for the next 35 years. It was just one thing after another.
So you worked with my sleepaway camp counselor from Camp Winston, Marty Nadler.
Yes, Marty, who's now down there where you are. He was in Nantucket, and he went back and forth to Boca. And, yeah, Marty, it won't do any good for anybody listening except for you. So, it's good. Nice. That's how Gary Marshall and Penny Marshall speak in real life. Wow, what you doing? It's a cadence, and you don't use all the words. It's like a clipped way of speaking. Go, how you doing? Doing. What? How do you get there? Left. Where? Not soon. Right? Doesn't the Marty speak like that?
Absolutely. And so what? So you were all of a sudden you went from being a guy who was leading a bus tour to being around. Did you have experiences with the actors and the actresses in the? Because obviously, if you're writing for them, you have interactions with them.
Yeah, daily. You know, it was like, oh my God, there's Laverne and Shirley, Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams, Lenny and Squiggy and Phil Foster. It was like Nirvana. You go, oh, I died and went to heaven until about the third day. You go, I'm so sick of this shit. Boy, if I see her again, I'm gonna punch her. Yeah. So you get over that starstruck thing pretty quick. But that was the beginning, and then it rollerballed. It wasn't just them. It was everyone. I worked on. We tried to add it up. If there was a Guinness Book of Records, I think I worked on probably more shows than anybody in the business, because I was doing 3 different shows a week and doing that for 35 years. When someone said, oh, I've been in the business 35 years, they may have worked on 10 or 12 shows. I'm up to like 200 because of the pilots and Coach, Night Court, Webster, Taxi, Cheers, Friends, 2.5. I have a whole list that I give. We'll talk about that in a while. The show I'm doing, I talk about all the shows that I worked on, all the people I was in contact with.
Wow. So how long did the Laverne and Shirley last, and what was the next thing that happened after that?
Oh, well, that was a funny thing. You got to remember, it was 1978, so it was nobody took much seriously then. So I didn't really learn how to write. It was mostly playing stickball, and there were, I think, a few drugs. Oh wait, no, there was a lot of drugs. There was a lot of drugs, and it was the inmates running the asylum. So I did. Well, let's back up. One night, because it wasn't just writing. One night, it was, remember, the #1 show on the air, and I'm backstage. I'm this new writer, you know, on bottom of the totem pole, and Gary Marshall, Penny's brother, came up to me backstage. He goes, Bob, listen, go talk to the audience. I go, what do you mean? Talk, you'll be the guy, which was a warm-up guy. So what gave me this ability to do that is the bus. Being on a bus tour on the microphone for 2 weeks at a time, after that, nothing can matter. So, but it still was pretty daunting, because this was the #1 show. The people are there, and the stage is dark, because the people are there to see Laverne and Shirley, the #1 show, and I'm the guy that's going to come out. So it was a curtain and a drum roll, and the curtain opened up, and it's me with a spotlight. And all I go people go, well, you were nervous, huh? I go, no. I faced 90 people that were angry because they were on a bus. This is nothing. Go, hey, how you doing? Welcome to Laverne and Shirley. And that was the start of that. And he said, just go talk to them. So that was the warm-up. Oh, we got off track. So Laverne and Shirley, what got canceled, like all shows get canceled, MASH, Taxi, the best of the Friends, they all get canceled. But I wasn't ready yet to be a writer, because I didn't put the time in for the craft. But I did get good at doing the warm-ups. At the time, there were no professional warm-up people. What they did, they being the show, is get one of the fledgling writers, of which I was one, and say, go, like Gary did, talk to the audience, and then they would give you $50. So these were not professional warm-up people. These were writers who did it for an extra $50. So now the show's canceled, and I'm not a good writer yet, but I was a good warm-up guy. But shows were not in the habit of hiring warm-up guys. They would just have one of their writers. Let's go, and they would go and do it. I, on the other hand, said, Donna Pez! Made a big deal of it with music going on. Then after the show, I went to the producers. Oh, I made a big deal of them too. And the geniuses behind this show are down there on the floor. Give a hit. You know, big. So now their ego. So I could ask for more money, because it was good for them. The cast then goes, wow, what happened? The audience was jacked, and they gave a better performance. It wasn't just all show. When they hear that, they go, wow, we're hot. And it did make for a better show, and it did, more importantly, allow me to ask for a livable wage. So it went from $50, they go, how much? I go, $300. Oh, that's a lot of money. I go, yeah, well, talk it over and let me know. The cast demanded that they pay me the money, and that's how it started. It just went up incrementally from then.
You are a true pioneer in the business. Hey, you found a niche, and you were the first of its kind. Isn't that something? How interesting is that?
Yeah, it was all out of desperation. I did not want to. It was either that or go back to the cruise ships. It was really out of desperation. It was survival, because I wasn't ready to be a writer, and I developed this other talent, which I didn't know I had, because I didn't even know there was a job called warm-up. And to this day, most of America, they see a show, they don't know there's a guy out there talking to the audience, and yeah, I did it. But yet, here I am in Narragansett now.
You know, I remember speaking to like somebody like Buddy Hackett out there, or other guys who were obviously extremely talented, very accomplished, but they never found a niche for themselves. And you know what I'm going to say next? That could pay for their retirement. It was sad.
No, I actually didn't know you were going to say that next. Yeah, it got to be pretty lucrative. I mean, there's a lot of money in show business, and this was one facet where they didn't expect to spend the money, so they did it reluctantly, but I made it worth their while. Their egos were stroked. I made sure that I got this music, like this pomp and circumstance when I would introduce the producers of the show, where they would, and I had the spotlight hit them. They go, yeah, that's worth a couple of grand to have me. You know? Yeah, so yeah, I made sure I treated them right.
So tell me about some of the most interesting shows to work on. Ones where you did you started right from the beginning? Did you think it would work? Did you not think it would work?
Oh yeah, I did pilots. A pilot, for people who don't know, is a one show tryout for a TV show, and it costs upwards of now millions to do one show, because they have to hire a crew, the studio, the writers, the producers, the craft services. It takes about a month to do, and then they do one show, and then it goes in a bin with all these other pilots, and then the powers that be go, that one, that one, that one. And so I've done quite a few pilots where I knew that night, this is a hit.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
Cheers, I did the pilot. The audience went crazy. Newhart, I did the pilot. Audience went nuts. But more often than not, because for every one of the Cheers and Friend, I did the pilot of Friend, which was a phenomenal. Out of the box, the audience loved those 6 actors. And you know, it could have been any 6 actors, by the way, but we'll get into that another time. But it just clicked, and you know it's going to work. But more often than not, ooh, that doesn't work, and it takes hours to shoot a show, and you know it's not going to work. But Cheers, Newhart, Friends, a lot of them I didn't do the pilots, but they became popular, and they go, oh, we're going to get a good warm-up guy, and I developed a reputation, and they would call me and, oh, can you do the series? Or I couldn't do the series because I got a calendar. Okay, I'm doing Cheers on this Tuesday. I can't do it then. How about the next? And I'd fill up the calendar for the year. if they say, well, can you do the whole series? I go, well, then we'll negotiate a different price. So that's the business of show business.
Well, it's interesting, so interesting, because in 1981, when I first went out to Los Angeles for the entertainment industry for myself, David Auerbach, he was somebody who I met in Boston. He went to school in Boston, and then he went out to Los Angeles, and his dad was very well situated out in the entertainment industry, and he became a TV producer. And so to give me a little thrill, he got me some seats for this new TV show, and I over in Paramount Studios, and I went with my sister, and we sat down, and we saw all these people circling around a bar and laughter, and circling around a bar and laughter. I said, wow, what is this thing? And of course it was Cheers. Were you probably the warm-up way before the show aired? Were you the warm-up for more than one, or just the first one?
2 years. I did 2 years on Cheers. That was when Nick Colasanto was the bartender, because he died, and then Woody Harrelson took his place. And I was there for the whole Shelley Long.
Wow.
What shall we say? Fiasco, perhaps? That's a whole... I'm doing a one-man show where I talk about all the shows I was on. But she was... and I guess it's pretty much a secret to America, but I don't care. I'm not there anymore. The first night of... is that for me?
No, sorry.
Okay. I'm not here. You want to hear that story now? Or?
Yeah, very much. I mean, hey, an inside story that you don't care who hears it at this point. I want to hear it.
All right. So the first night, remember, no one knew Shelley Long, Ted Danson, Nick, Rhea Perlman. They were unknowns. They were not young actors, but, mid to late 20s perhaps, but never had a big break. So I'm out there, I'm talking to the audience. The set is behind me, and the audience is in front. So as I'm talking, before they come out, I look in my vision, because I have to be aware of everything that's going on. It's not just me and the audience. I have to know that the show is ready to begin, when they're ready to ring the bell, so I'm out there saying, you're going to see a great show, it's going to be wonderful, and I see out of the corner of my eye, Ted Danson, Shelley Long, they're all looking, oh, I hope it works. Because if a show works, it's not just, oh, good. It's a life changer. It's not a game changer or a day changer. It changes your life and your kid's life if it works. And it not just works for one season, but if it goes on, your whole life is different. So I'm looking, and they're so excited. Oh, I hope it works. Oh, we're going to be famous, we may make a living at this, and won't have to be a waitress anymore. 3 weeks later, I'm out there, okay, it's Cheers, but do the first scene, and then I go out, because the actors have to go change clothes to show that it's another day. That takes about 10 minutes, and I entertain and keep the audience up and excited. And so 10 minutes go by, and I'm waiting, and well, this is taking long. I mean, these are still 3 weeks. They're into, is this going to work or not? And finally, I catch the eye of the stage manager, who usually says, okay, Bob, we're ready. And he's doing this, which means stretch. I go, that's odd. Maybe there's a technical problem or a camera went down. So this happens for the whole show. Every scene, he's going stretch before it's. So at the end of the show, I go, what was that all about? Why was the big delay? Was there a camera down? He goes, no. Shelley Long went to her agent during the week, and from now on, she demands that after every scene, whether she has one line or 5, she needs complete hair and makeup done.
Whoa.
I go, that bitch.
Wow.
And this went on for 2 years, or however long she was on the show, until she finally left to be a movie star, which never happened.
Wow.
And that's when Kirstie Alley came in and was terrific. So that's just one of those show business stories where either they left too early or they were a big pain in the ass to begin with. But there's a million stories like that.
Oh, that's incredible. That really is. So after that, you did what you had to do. You were on some great shows, building your reputation. And then you obviously started getting into the LA scene like every sane person does, because there's nothing more interesting or exciting than that. What kind of things were going on when you weren't working?
Took me maybe 10 years or so to get on the permanent list for the Playboy Mansion. I mean, we grew up in a different era where, oh, that was so cool. Now it's kind of outdated, outmoded, and it's not that hip or cool to go there. But when we were there, that was it. That was the holy grail. And because of my connections, and I had people write letters, and I had to send pictures in for every single event. And finally, he said, oh, all right, this guy must know people. I mean, Alan Thicke would call up on my behalf, and Tony Danza, just everyone. And when you go to the parties, you go, wow, this is unbelievable. Look at every girl there is a 10 or above. And it's not an accident. They have to submit pictures to get invited. And if they're not nice to the guys, they don't get invited back. So I was aware of this. So when a girl was nice to me, I go, I know why. She has to be. But the guys that were unaware of this go, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I go, no, you're not. If you met this girl tomorrow, this girl who's being so nice to you and smiling and touching your arm, this is sex aside, just a girl being nice. If you saw her at Starbucks tomorrow, I say, hey, how you doing? She'll please get away from me. So it's like a whole different pecking order there.
And there's no doubt that it's absolutely, it's thought of as the sexiest place in the whole world. And of course, you and I know what that means. People look sexy, it's glamorous. But, you and I know from, different experiences that being in a relationship in Los Angeles, a meaningful one from the heart, might be one of the most difficult things to be able to do.
See, I disagree. It is the most difficult thing, and that might be. It's the place where no matter how successful or what you have going, how much money, and you're making eye contact with a girl and you're having a nice conversation, you at some point in that conversation you see her eyes go over your shoulder. Not looking at a tree or a building, but looking for the next guy who can do a little bit better for her. Because especially in show business, and like I said, this is a common thread for both of us. It's, wow, their career is paramount, not the relationship. And I know that's what you do now. And being in LA like we were, yeah, you see that, and it's so I go, oh, I finally found a nice girl and you see her looking for the next guy that can help her career. Yeah, it was difficult.
I'm going to tell a little bit of a story. I'm going to take up a little bit of your time, but it has to do with that same evening that I went to see you. I didn't know that, but I went to see you warming up the audience for Cheers. I was online with my sister. I had just moved out, and in front of me was the most beautiful girl that I've ever seen. But that happens every block when you're from Boston or from Rhode Island. But this girl was absolutely stunning, wholesome looking, and I couldn't even say a word to her. I couldn't say a word. I felt like a real Boston bumpkin. About 2 weeks later, I got on the Sony studios, which was MGM back then, and I'm looking into one of those big studios, and it's this Fame. I mean, talk about aging ourselves, right? And out comes this girl out of this studio, and I was in shock. Out of all of LA, here she is, and I said, hey, you remember me? We were standing online together at Cheers. She goes, yeah, I remember you. I said, hey, this is too much of are you single? Yes. Why don't we go out? She said, okay. I thought my brain was going to explode because I had just gotten out there and I thought I'd hit, the payload. So we made a date for 2 days later. I called her up at the time. I said, okay, And I called. She wasn't there. 7:30, 7:35, 7:40, 7:41, 7:42, 7:40. She didn't pick up the phone until 8:15. I said, hey, remember me? We had a date. She goes, I am so sorry. I had to meet my agent at 6. I had a dance class at 7, and I had to pick up some things for my acting audition tomorrow. And it's like an hour and a half later, I had to say to myself, Bob, do I want to be 4th or 5th on this girl's list of importance? And I had to say, she said, do you want to go out again? And I had to say, no, because this girl really could have done me in. That's how incredible she was. And my life changed after that. It wasn't the same after I had to learn that really tough lesson out there.
And that's the way it is, though. You can never be number one in an actress's life. Acting is number one. And then what can you do for me is number 2, and then maybe that dance lesson is more important than that guy. I mean, way down on the pole on that one. Way down.
So then there's so much more that LA has to offer when you're living it up. You have sports teams, you have concerts, you have events. Did you get into that?
Yeah, those are the things that you have in order to put up with the traffic, the smog, the women who have that. You have to weigh those two things. I had connections with Staples Center, the Lakers, the Playboy Mansion, the Tonight Show. I got to go to get to the Tonight Show from the beach, and geographically, you know this, from Marina Del Rey to Burbank, you might as well say I got to go from Boston to New York at 5. I mean, I would go 3 hours early in order not to be 2 minutes late. That's another whole story. I had the best job in the world for the last 15 years, which is warming up the Tonight Show. It was 10 minutes a day. There was nothing that would stop me, nothing to do 10 minutes a day. If I was sick, I could suck it up and go in to do 10 minutes a day. I had laser eye surgery in the morning one day. I was there that afternoon. I was mugged one day. I had black eyes, and the doctor stitched up. I went in and did it with sunglasses on because I was autonomous. Once Jay left the stage, nobody called to say, where's Bob? And, I did it for 15 years. I was just there. So if there was traffic, they don't care if there's traffic. So to me, it would be worth it to get in 2 hours early to relax. Not that I had to do much preparation because it was off the cuff anyway. But I put up with that traffic and the smog and the girls we spoke of to do that job. But, yeah, there are things that make LA the Hollywood Bowl. I'm sure there's no finer place to go on a summer night to hear an orchestra and to see John Williams than the Hollywood Bowl. But it takes 3 hours to get there, 2 hours to park, and 2 hours to leave. But when you're there, nothing better.
That's what kept drawing me back. I lived there in the 80s. I got drawn back in the late 90s and stayed another 4 or 5 years, and that's when I, come to see you every once in a while at Tonight Show. You were nice enough to get me a seat all the way in the back, like all the way upstairs away from it all, so I wouldn't be bothering you.
I don't want to be too close. Yeah, it smells down there. You have a chance of getting hit by spittle. I did you a favor, and you never paid me a dime.
A lot of people worked I knew Jay, back in the improv days, and he was just a real gentleman. Another Boston guy, another New England guy. Tell me a little bit about working with him.
Well, I don't even know if you know this, but in the early 70s, I was in Boston. I was teaching at a junior college. Jay was going to Emerson, and we both answered an ad in the Boston Phoenix. The ad said, "Are you funny?"
Oh.
Now it takes a pretty good ego to answer that ad, and we both answered it independently of one another. I didn't know who he was. It was for a comedy group. At the time, and again, we're aging ourselves, it was the Ace Trucking Company. They had improv groups that would go out. The Committee was in San Francisco. These were precursors to the Groundlings and Second City. These were before them. But we both answered the ad and ended up in a comedy group together and became good friends. We toured around New England and we wrote our own stuff. It was great. So we go back that far. He moved out to L.A. to become a stand-up comic after the comedy group, which was called Fresh Fruit Cocktail, ran its course. We went through a lot of names before we came up with that, so you can imagine how bad the names were before that. So he was out in L.A., and then when I heard about the tour guide job, I called him up, and we found a place. We were roommates for a year.
Wow.
Down near ABC Prospect, up in, which is now a hip place, Los Feliz. So we were tight roommates at the time. We bought a motorcycle together. He was making $25 a night, and so we go back a long way. What was the question?
Yeah, I want to find. You were. I could absolutely talk to you for hours and hours, but I've been wanting so much to ask you about. You're actually going to be doing a production in Rhode Island about your career and about your life in show business. I want to hear so much more about that.
Oh, yeah. This came up, this interest. I retired in like 3 years now from L.A. Finally, I get out of L.A., come to Narragansett. And every time I met someone, what'd you do? I was a warm-up guy in L.A. Get out! What was it like? What was Tom Cruise? And that was... All right, but I'm here now. Never mind now. So this warm-up thing, what was that like? And did you ever meet so-and-so? I go, and this has been going on for years. I said, maybe there's a show there. So I have developed a show called Tales from Hollywood. I have a list that I pass out to the audience of 200 people and shows that I've worked on. Not just worked on. For some reason, and now I know the reason, I wanted pictures of me with everybody just as a memento. And instead, it's become a scrapbook, a video scrapbook. So of everybody on this list, from Buddy Hackett to Tom Cruise to Leno to sports stars to Coach to Webster. I'm doing the show, and if they ask, the show is all predicated on questions from the audience based on this list they get. And everyone on the list, they say, oh, what about Cheers? I would tell that story, but behind me on a screen is a picture with me and Shelley Long and Ted Danson. Not that I'm bragging, it just validates the fact it's not just a schlub telling a story about someone they heard about. Go, that's us. So basically, it's an hour-and-a-half show of me telling tales, and the beauty of it is I don't pull any punches. The story I told you about Cheers, I would tell the audience. I'm not going back. I don't care. So I'll tell these stories, and they're not lies. These are true tales from Hollywood. It should be a lot of fun.
So where is it going to be? How many days, weeks is it going to run? Boy, would I love to see it. Are you going to videotape it? Please say yes.
Yes, of course. That's how we're going to get the word out. But right now it's going to be in Narragansett, Rhode Island, at the Courthouse for the Performing Arts, right near the University of Rhode Island. But that's for local people, and hopefully it'll build from there, because these are stories that people love to hear. These are people they grew up with and go, I'll tell you what really happened. I was the fly on the wall. They would do stuff. What
do they have to do? Can they contact you, or do you want them to contact somebody else?
Wait a minute. Stay there. It's at the courthouse. You know what? They can call me directly. Is that about? I'm serious. What do I care? There's nobody down here, Bruce.
If you're a female between the ages of 25 and 55,
whoa! Do not limit. Why are you limiting with an age thing? There's no. You could stop at female. You don't have to make people feel bad if you're a female.
I'm sorry.
Of any age.
Hey, Bob, this has been spectacular. Maybe we'll do it again. I mean, this was the furthest thing from work, and I really enjoyed it. And you know what? We probably didn't even scratch the surface on some of the fun things. So really, honestly, if you don't mind, I'd love to do this again with you.
My pleasure, Bruce. Always good to talk to you. I'm glad we found each other again, and we have to do this live sometime.
Oh, that's great. And if there's any way in the world, and I'm working on it, when I heard you say July 18th and 19th, if there's any way in the world this old Boston bumpkin guy can get up to New England around that time, I'm going to be there with me and my family, and I'll bring some friends, and that would be a wonderful gift to me, and it would be great to get together with you real live and in person.
I'd love to, and there is a group rate, so the more people you bring.
That's what you told me at the Tonight Show. I didn't know the seats were free.
Quick story. You got a second?
Yeah.
I had a friend in the middle of the Tonight Show. He called me up he was from Rhode Island. He goes, Bob, look, my daughter's coming out, and you're at the Tonight Show. I would love to, if you could get her tickets. I don't care what it costs. You please. I go. The minute he said that, it's going. I go, well, Jesus, Dick, at this late date, it's not face value doesn't even count anymore. I can get her a good seat, but it's going to be a lot of money. Because I don't care, whatever it costs. I go, well, it's like $200 a seat. I mean, I could get a really good seat. I mean, it's free. We both know that. Because he didn't know. He goes, absolutely. I go, here's the thing, Dick. I got to have the check tomorrow. Can you overnight it? He goes, absolutely. So, I already got her the seats. Like I said, I go, I'll get her into the green room, and she could have an apple before the show. How many is she coming alone? Oh, she's with a friend. I go, well, that's 400. Goes, I don't care. I go, but you got to get it overnight. Can you put the money? I go, no, because the seat has to be numbered. There's no numbers, and it has to be validated, and it's very, very particular with the NBC. Goes, I don't care. Overnight, I get a UPS $400 check, which I still have, and the daughter comes in front row, and I go, you folks. I hope you realize how important and how honored you have to be here. A lot of you I know didn't pay anything. This girl in the front row paid $200 a seat. Say hello to my friend's daughter, and she went nuts. And then I called him. I go, don't deduct that from your checking account. It was all. He goes, you son of a bitch. But you get to do that stuff.
Great story, Bob Perlow. Thank you, man. I look forward to connecting with you again. You're on my cell phone ringer, and I think I'm on yours. God bless. Thanks for being on the show, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Good to see you, Bruce. Thanks.
Okay, Bob. Bye-bye.